Okay, I have my image all sketched out. I've already arranged my palette, so I'll tell you what colors I have. I have them just the initials written out. Let me tell you first, and then you can pause and set up your palette, and then we'll get working together. First here, I have cadmium yellow light, Indian yellow hue, cadmium red light, alizarin crimson hue, ultramarine blue, Prussian blue hue, viridian green, and titanium white. Yours might look a little bit different because we're using different brands. Okay, go ahead and set up your palette and then start back up and we'll get painting. All right. As always, for me, I'm choosing my largest flat brush. That's my number 10. I'm going to get it a little bit wet. And we're going to do something different. We are not going to mix out all of our colors like we were doing before. That only works really well when you know exactly what you're going to be working with. For this image, I really don't know. I've never painted this before. This is brand new. We're going to try it out together. So we're going to do a little bit like what was in the previous lesson that wasn't made by me, where the painter was mixing directly on the palette with their brush. So let's give that a try. We'll set aside our palette knife for now. And I'm just going to start by using my brush. You'll see the image. I'll post it below this video. So let's first take a look at the tabletop. We've got, it's not white. We learned that, right? The tabletop is slightly darker than the whitest white on the cube. And we know that white on the cube isn't even white. So we're going to go, this will be our lightest value. This will be our second lightest value, I believe. Oh, you know what? One little piece I missed. Can't forget the cast shadow. Yeah, something like that. Okay. So let's start by pulling. I'm going to pull out some titanium white. And do you remember how we make a gray? Let's do our usual gray. That's alizarin crimson. Just a tiny bit of that. And viridian green. A little bit of that. Let's mix those together. 2 green, add in a little bit more. I'm just using what's already on my brush. I bring it over to the white. I don't know, it's not a great neutral, is it? Too red? Let's try a little bit more. I'm adding a little bit of water. It's already drying out. So I struggle with the same thing you guys struggle with. It dries out so fast. I've learned to move really quickly in response. I've also learned that how much water I can add. That's a tricky thing because I'll say, oh, add some water to keep it from drying out. But you've probably experienced how too much water makes your brush strokes look really weird. They aren't opaque anymore. It just isn't right. So it's not a perfect thing. You've really got to test it yourself and feel it out. See how it goes. See how thin, look at that, how thin that is. try to scoop up as much as I can. Once it's on here before it's dry, I can bring my brush with a little bit of water over and just sort of smear it around to fill in the space. See how that goes. I have a feeling this is going to be too dark. Yeah, this feels too dark already. Let's bring even more white and even less of our mixture. I'm not going to worry too much about the hue being perfect right now. Let's just get paint on the canvas. We can adjust things later. Let's see, my canvas is I generally use more titanium white than anything else. I rarely do I use lay down a color that doesn't have white in it. And I already need more. Water, mix it in there. Just make sure you mix it a lot. You really don't want that kind of chunky separated quality that you get when the paint's drying and you're trying to push it around on the canvas. That's no good. Okay, that'll do. We'll probably come back and work on this a bit more. I mean, I think there's some problems with it for sure. I don't want to get too caught up in it yet. Just add a little layer of white. Once you have some color down, then you can start to use a drier paint. It's okay to smear it around a little bit, but you got to get some color on there first. You just never want canvas showing through. That's a real problem. Let's rinse that out. Okay, now I think we should address the shadow. Let's do our same mixture. It's kind of a warm shadow, isn't it? I almost see some dark yellows in there. So let's see if we have any of that left to use. We can use some of that. I'm going to bring a little bit of my Indian yellow in and some more white. A little more Indian yellow. Let's see. So if it's yellow and I want to make it a little darker, I want to make it more neutral, then I'm going to add its complement. So across on the color wheel, what's going to be right across from yellow? You can look at the color wheel you've made. Directly across from it is purple. Fortunately for us, let's see, I believe Prussian blue leans towards purple. So let's get just the tiniest bit of that. And then a tiny bit of our alizarin crimson. Add a little more alizarin. A little more Indian yellow. So we're just experimenting. You know, I don't know exactly ahead of time what's going to work. I have a good idea, but you just got to try some stuff out. There we go. That last bit of Prussian blue, that really helped. Okay, that's going to look better. I think sometimes what's difficult for the beginning painter is to accept that there aren't really clear answers to every problem. There isn't a formula that's always going to work. There's no one color combination that'll always look good. There's no one way to mix a color that'll always look good. You know, I think it's really tempting, especially if you've been in school a while, if you're used to other experiences in school. It can be really tempting to think that there's an answer. There's just some simple answer, and I need to figure out what the answer is. But when it comes to painting and art in general, there really isn't one answer. And that can be frustrating for a lot of beginning painters. Something you might have experienced as a beginning, in beginning drawing or drawing on your own, whatever experience you have, it can be really frustrating. You know, it almost feels like this puzzle, which it is, or at least I think of it as a puzzle. But it's the kind of puzzle that only you can solve because it's so subjective. Do you think something works? Does it work or not? You know, what are your intended goals? Maybe a painting turns out really flat, but that could be okay. That might be exactly what you're trying to practice. You know, so there's never just this one clear pathway. Art requires a lot of risk-taking, critical assessment, critiquing your own work, other people's work. And it takes a lot of courage to say, I don't know, I'm just going to try this. I might waste a ton of time. I mean, as a teacher, I would tell you that's not wasted time. Obviously, you're learning, so that's worth any amount of time you spend. I just want to point something out. Okay. So you notice how we don't have a purple, right? And I kept saying, well, we can use our Prussian blue, a little alizarin crimson, and yellow. Well, blue, red, and yellow, those are our primary colors. You remember that red and blue makes purple, and purple and yellow are complementary colors. So this triangle of the primaries, or if you want the secondaries, can become your complementary pairs. It's just about the proportion that you mix them in. I sure wish I could show you this in person. Okay, so I've got this beautiful blue, my Prussian blue. I've mixed a little alizarin crimson. It's a very dark, moody blue now. And I'm going to add a little bit of this Indian yellow to it. I'm going to see if I can get it to be a little less saturated for this background, but I'm going to keep it dark. Okay, let's give that a try. Add a little bit of water because my paint's drying so fast. Today is worse than ever. Okay. Oh yeah, see that? So it's like opaque paint, splotchy, and then opaque again. That's no good. You gotta really cover. This looks too dark, but I don't care. I'm just gonna get it on there right now. I don't even have enough paint to cover the area I want to cover, so I'm just gonna use what I have and then we'll mix more. If you really want to try to stretch your paint, make it last longer, adding water to the paint that's on the canvas is a lot more effective than adding it purely to what's on the palette. If you try to add a ton of water to what's on the palette, it's going to get separated and gloopy and weird, which you've probably all experienced by now. You can add a little bit more when it's on the canvas already. You will end up with thin spots, though, which are not great, but that's how it goes. Let's make some more. Prussian blue, alizarin crimson, Indian yellow. We need more than that. This is good. I'm glad my paint is drying so fast. I can show you how I deal with that. So I'm just kind of picking up paint and getting it on the canvas. It's drying really fast. And while it's on the canvas, I dip my brush into the water. I bring it back over to the spot where the paint is the thickest. And then I kind of scrub, pull the paint, thin it out, and pull it across the rest of the canvas, if I can. If it looks too thin, if it looks bad, you just gotta mix more paint and do it again. That's just how it works. All right. This is a great start. It doesn't look at all like the photo, but I don't even care. We're just going to keep going, and we'll have to make adjustments as we go.